Alright, we're gonna be looking at making a restart or respawn, but and ultimately we're just gonna be teleporting the character, but I thought about doing it that way, but the main problem I find with the teleport, so if we grab like the teleporters from the actual kit here, oops, I grab this here, we select the destination, right? I'll just move this over here really quickly. Problem I find is that it doesn't stop our movement, especially if we're running at it. You can see it will keep moving the character when they get to the other side of the teleporter. Right. So for respawning, I do end up actually deleting or destroying our actor as well. So that way, I'm gonna go up to our own blueprints, right? And we're gonna create our own section here. So I'm going to start off with a blueprint actor. So right click and create a blueprint, and then we'll go to actor. We will start with BP. Oops. BP underscore respawn. Right. And then just double checking here. We want to then click that to open it up. I'm going to close echo as well as twin blade since we don't need them. Right. Now, before we get started, right, we want to add a couple of things. We'll search for a box collision. This is going to be our trigger zone. Right. And then I am going to go to the constructions graph and actually drag it in because I want to set my box extent event from dragging off the blue pin here, right? And then I'm going to default it to something like 10 for height, 100 by 100 for it, right? Now, under the actual thing, I'm going to also set the line thickness to 2 and also look for visible, or not visible, hidden in game, sorry, just so that way I can turn that off, right? There we go. And then I can just hook that up so that way in the construction that will be there. Now with the default set, I can right click and actually promote this to a variable so that way we can edit it outside in the sections, right? So now if I look at my graph, we get a nice little box like that. All right. Now, clicking on the trigger zone, what I need is I like to also add in another section called a arrow component, right? This arrow component is what I'm going to use as like a visual idea of which way or where our player can respawn, right? I'm gonna leave it as a regular actor there, right? And then I gotta make sure that this is instance editable. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is because we're going to make a spawn location transform. So spawn location transform, right? And then if I were to set that to transform, because when you use the 3D widget, you gain access to all three widgets, right? The move and so forth. Now, we're not done in the construction graph because ultimately we're going to use this transform as a way to move the arrow, right? So what I want to do is look for dragging off of our arrow component, which I can even say, you know, spawn direction arrow or direction arrow. There. Yeah, okay. So dragging off of here, right? look for set relative or set actor or set relative location. Right. In our case, it's going to be relative to the blueprint, right? Now, this is where I can then right-click and split our pin from the get version of the spawn location. So you drag this in, you can say get, or for hotkeys, right, for a quick little turn on here, right, I can grab this guy, hold down the control key, and then let go, and then I have a get. Now, the same would also be if I went to hold Alt, you get the set version, right? I'll quickly turn those off there. And then we'll hop over here to split pin, drag that guy there. Now, if I duplicate them, I could technically reroute, but I do want to set the relative rotation. That way I can then put this guy in here, just like that. Just tidy this up this way, actually. I will go like this, hit Q. There. And then that's good for our section here, right? Now, let's see here. So back in the main event graph, right? This is where we can then go under the trigger zone, scroll down until we find the on begin component overlap, right? You can even delete all the other ones if you really wanted to. Except for, well, actually, no, we need begin play, actually. But that's just to make it, or no, I don't need begin play in this one. So we can delete all these here, so that way we don't get too confused. All right. So. All right. So what I'm going to do is actually hop over to our controller. So the controller is actually where I'm going to set up a look for on possess, right? On possess, right? So we're in a BP hero, right? That I copied or duplicated when we created the character. Now, what I want to do is on our possessed fawn, right? On possess, we want to bind on destroy. On destroy. So bind event on destroy when I search, right? I dragged off the blue pin there. Right, so that way we're binding custom event respawn when the character gets destroyed, right? Now, let's see here. Now, what I'm going to do is I don't remember adding that to hero, but I will use it. If you don't have one, I'm just going to see if I delete it. Okay, right. So it must have accidentally had that or was tempted beforehand. But we're going to spawn actor from class, right? That's what we need to spawn. And we need to spawn BP hero. Since I've made them the hero now, right? You would use BP or the sandbox mover if you were using the regular character, right? And then what I am going to do is actually promote this to a variable. Let's call this respawn location. Respawn location. All right. And while we're at it, we can also create a custom event set respawn set respawn location. Now, what I'm going to do is drag this back like this. I'm going to split the pin here, because I only want to drag back the respawn location and the respawn rotation, right? I'm going to leave the scale to 111 because you don't want to change your scale of your character, right? Now, the last little bit inside the controller we need to do is possess the character, right? So you want to make sure you grab pawn, possess. Just like that. Right, and then I'll compile and save. We'll zoom out a little. In fact, I'll get them a little closer. That way you guys can quickly pause if you need to see the full blueprint. Right, so that is the hero controller set up here, right? So I'm using BP hero, and my pawn class is the hero, right? If you're using the sandbox mover, make sure you do that. I also disabled inside the controller the ability to swap pawns, in case you guys haven't set that up. Didn't want to have that set up. Now, back into the respawner, right? Now that we've gotten that all set up. All right, so what I need to do is we're going to start off by programming the respawn itself, and then we'll pretty it up with some camera fades, right? So, start off, right, the other actor, well, we want to destroy actor. Right, so that's gonna be the constant overall. But before we do that, we need to get the controlled, or not the controller. Yeah, get the controller. Now I need to cast to be able to communicate. So cast to BP, or no, PC underscore hero. That way I have that one. Right. So if the cast is there, now technically we should also check, hey, is this the player character? So what I am going to do actually is say get player character. Now again, you would have a different one. Actually, we'll just say get player pawn. If it is the player pawn, since we are using pawns, we're going to check with an equal sign. Except for I'll plug this one into the second one. Checking here. Right, and then we're just going to branch just to be on the safe side. Hey, is it the player? If so, then move forward. Right. It'll give us enough space to break this down as well. Right. And then off of here, we want to set respawn. Set respawn location, whatever you name. So whatever we name the actual custom function down here, right? So set respawn location, right? Then we drag this up here, just like that. Which will take in, the reason why I'm only taking in those guys is because we're going to then grab our arrow component and say get world location, because we want to get the location where it is inside the world, right? If we got local, it would be local to the blueprint. So then I put that guy in there. I also need to get world rotation. World rotation. Right. Oh, wait, not set. Get world rotation. There we go. And I can plug that in there as well. Right. Now, I can actually take these nodes, so this is actually already now at least functioning, right? So I'm going to tidy this up though by right-clicking on it and saying collapse to function, right? So just these nodes here, I'm going to leave the branch in that over there, since we're going to eventually come back and tidy it up a little. But I right-click and say collapse nodes to function, name this try to respawn. Try to respawn, right? In fact, let's go quickly test this by dragging this in, right? So I'm going to drag this onto the red here, right? And then I can see I want to grab this guy here, except for I need to turn down my snapping. Let's see, respawn. Make sure I grab the full thing. Pull it up, and then I can play with this and probably do 300 by 300. Oh, no. Say 150 by 150. Oh. Right. Okay, so that's something to consider there. So this one would probably be 200 since it'd be 200 on each side. There we go. Right, and then I click on the waypoint, and then we can move my arrow. Right, we want to make sure it's above here, but I also want to not have it crashing in there, but a little above, not much. Right, and I'll even pull it back. In fact, this guy here should probably come back here. I'll go make this 5, and then I'll shuffle it back some more, so that way we have a little more runway. Right, and then I select this guy, move back here. Then when I hit, oops, not simulate, but play, right, I get up here, I run over, Oh, okay, well that was weird. Right, so then if I run up from over here, okay. I am going to, so this was just me trying to see why it wasn't working, but apparently it was just a fluke that it wasn't working there. So I'm going to change this, the actor to respawn, actor to respawn, and then to pretty this up so that way we get some camera fades, right? All we need to do is say get player camera manager, right? On the camera manager, it has a function called start camera fade, right? And well, for the camera fade, I'm going to have be roughly 1 second. You can go a little faster if you wanted, but we want it to hold its position. Now, from alpha would mean it starts from fade from black. If we turn that to 1, we want it to fade to black in our case, right? So we'll put that there. Now, I am going to put a delay here for the actual spawn time itself. In fact, actually, I'm going to put this at 0.8. 0.8, and I'll do this one at 0.8 as well for the delay, right? In fact, actually, I'll do the delay for 0.6. That way it does the respawn functionality, right? There. Now, I'm going to put another delay over here of 0.2, which adds up on the other side. Now, the reason why that is because then I'm going to have us fade back in afterwards, right? Now, to fade back in, I just swap these numbers around, right? So I just back that out, hit 0, do 1 there, right? So then this is our respawn functionality, right? You can see we got the try to respawn. And if I were to compile, save, and then actually run it over here, right? We'll quickly run over here. Might need to. It's a little stuttery. Do I not have on? In fact, I'm going to turn that off really quickly just to see what's going on here. I'm going to put this to 1 second. I'll put this up to 0.5. I'll just put it to 1. That way we don't worry about the respawn mid. There. Fades to black. We move. All right, and then I'll do that there. There we go. This way it should hopefully look. There we go. So having it split that way wasn't working for me very well. Now it looks nice, right? And then we're back at the action. Player jumps over, and so forth. All right. So next up, we'll look at making a context-sensitive prompt to kind of go with this, right?